Hi, I'm Kathleen Murf+E, and welcome to Murf+E Unfiltered Zero BS Biz Talk. I'm here today with my co-host, Eliot Grossman. How are you, Eliot?
I am doing well. Kathleen, how are you doing?
I'm doing super well. Thank you very much. Finally feels like summer, which is nice for a change.
It is fantastic. You know what? I don't think I've ever called you Kathleen, and it was kind of fun.
It was kind of fun. Well, you can call me Kathleen. That's fine. The benefit of having a name like mine is that I have derivatives of my name. So Kathleen is my official name. So call me Kathleen if you'd like, but it must feel kind of weird.
Very weird. You're always Murph to me. All right.
All
Anyway.
right. So today we are going to be talking about a subject which lots of people should be interested in. They may not admit that they're interested in this, but we're going to have 10 tips that we're going to share with them about how they can own and increase their confidence. So are you ready to roll with this one, Eliot?
Sure, Murph. I like everything that you developed here, and I know you're going to lead the way on this one, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly read an overview for this particular story. So this is from one of my blogs, actually blog number 96. So this story was probably written about a year and a half ago, just to give you some context. So this overview is, what does it mean when you hear the term own it? The first thing that comes to my mind is owning something, but my second interpretation is to be highly confident in whatever it is doing and to own it. Are you doing things in your career to own it? So today we're going to talk about confidence more so as relates to the workplace. So whatever type of work that you do, we're going to cast most of the information towards being more specific towards the work. But all of these tips can also be integrated and implemented in your personal life as well. And one of the things that I'll start off with is I'm going to ask myself a question. So was I always confident in my abilities, especially in the workforce? Truthfully, just between you and me, absolutely not. No way. And then, so what led me to develop my confidence is really where I'm going to go from here. And I can tell you that initially, before I started in the workforce, I gained my confidence through sports and playing sports, but then fast track to being in the workforce, and I really didn't have a source that I was drawing from. So that made it a little bit more challenging for me. So it literally, was by way of having very small victories in terms of, I was in marketing for 25 plus years. And those very small victories of when I was in the marketing field was what led me to build my foundation of my confidence up. And I would say, as I further progressed in my career, and more recently, one of the things that has given me a tremendous amount of confidence is the fact that I took all of that experience, compiled it, and put it into a book. And I'm using that content today as well here. But really, it was a slow, methodical build. It wasn't overnight, sensation-wise, that I was incredibly confident. So I think more importantly, I eventually started to believe in myself and my abilities as I had more success. So I want to point out to people that it's something that is additive. So Eliot, how about you? How would you respond to being confident and what it took for you to get to that point of being confident?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Murph. And so I'm not going to dive into the personal side of things, but I think they kind of connect.
Yes.
So on the personal side of things, you wake up every day and you look in the mirror, right? And you, instead of looking what's inside you, you look at what's outside. I never woke up one day and said, "Oh man, you look great. You're and I just never was like that. And, it kind of led into my professional world. And when I first got out of college, I dove into the sales world and literally knew nothing.
Sure.
Didn't know how to go about it. Had a mentor that said, "Yeah, just go sell." And the reason he said that is because he knew that if I continued to go down a path the right way,
Mhm.
that my confidence would increase. And over time, what really helped me with the no's that I got in the sales world helped my confidence because it made me say, I'm having bad eye contact with somebody, or I'm not public speaking, I'm not presenting well. All of those things made me probably as a competitor, you hate to lose,
Sure.
and it made me become a more confident because I forced myself to be a better public speaker. I forced myself to be able to make better eye contact. I forced myself to do proper follow up. All of those things led me to believe, like, wow, I can stick my chest out and walk in the door and feel really good because someone told me a long time ago, we know 99.9% more than the people you're presenting to in the field or our product.
That's right.
And that made me, it's always stuck with me. It's always
Exactly.
stuck with me.
That's great. So I talked about confidence being something that, as an analogy, I love analogies, is equivalent to that of a foundation. It's something that you build upon,
Mhm.
and it takes time to do that. One of the things that I have found in terms of helping me with developing confidence also is to take a look at what other people that I perceive to be confident are doing, and to try to model some of that behavior after them, and see if I can take a page out of their playbook and maybe try it out and test that out myself. And I would say that, when I think about confidence and thinking about it from the perspective of what does it do for somebody, whether it's us or somebody else, I find that it does a lot for people. It's something that certainly can wane. It's confidence isn't necessarily always sustainable. It's something like muscles that you have to constantly be working
Sure.
at to
Mhm.
maintain it. But there are certain things that you can always be mindful of doing that can contribute to it. And I would say, it's funny, you talked about public speaking. I remember when I was initially starting to have to give presentations early on in my career, and I was just terrified of doing that. And I was not a polished practice speaker, and
Right.
I was absolutely the person that was saying all the time. And it wasn't until somebody pointed it out to me and they counted how many times I said that, that
Sure.
I woke up and thought, oh my gosh, I have to address this. That's dreadful. I wasn't even aware of it. And it was through this, it was constructive criticism, but I was so embarrassed
So,
about
so that's
that.
interesting, Murph, right? And I'm sorry to jump in, but it's interesting because you can take a public speaking class in college,
Mhm.
public speaking 100, 200, whatever you want. There's nothing like standing up in front of the class. It's easy, in my opinion, to stand up into the class and you might know if there's 200 people in the class, you might know five of them, right? It's quite different when you're now a new marketing coordinator, new marketing professional, and you need to go pitch and present to a team of seasoned professionals. And you worry about and you might have practiced in the mirror 100 times the night before and
I
worked with
did.
whoever you did, right? Of course, but there's nothing like getting in front of people. There's just nothing like it. And of how you can't be good, you can't develop confidence knowing that you did a poor job. Everybody's got to pat you on the back and say, "Oh, nice job, Murph. Great job, Kathleen. I like what you did. Very good presentation." Are they BSing you? Possibly.
Sure.
Early on in your career, for sure, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Let me just switch gears here a little bit and ask you a couple questions.
Mhm.
So when you were coming up the ranks, was there somebody in particular that you admired that had a great deal of confidence that often you times potentially wondered where did they get all their confidence from? And then is there something that increasing confidence has also done for you professionally when you think back? And if you could give me an example of that, that would be great.
Yeah. So there was somebody I worked with early on in my career that I would say, "Oh, she's not too intelligent. I'm going to climb the ranks faster than her. The competition." And what she did that I didn't do, she continued to educate and she continued to listen and read and become better at her craft.
Hmm.
When I was out at happy hour after work, she was not. And she was getting better and she was learning on how to be better, educating herself on how to be better.
Mhm.
So I kind of looked up to that throughout the years. She went and got her master's, got her doctorate, and still we're very good friends to this day. And she loves to kind of ride me about the fact that, I was a clown and wanted to just party all the time. And when I was young in the professional world, and she's, where she is because she didn't. And
Sure.
good for her to each his own. But I kind of looked up to that, and I admire that. And who she is and what she's done. And it's not a fake confidence. It's a
Sure.
wonderful, true, not arrogance confidence. We talked about that in a previous episode.
Yep.
And it was just kind of made me always think about, okay, educate yourself, listen. And being Captain Obvious, we talked about this previously as well, right? 2 ears, one mouth,
That's
listen,
right.
read, educate yourself, become more knowledgeable, and the confidence just kind of starts flowing. I think it becomes a natural evolution in when you become a little more in tune with what's happening professionally.
That's right.
You then in turn become more confident.
Excellent.
And
So,
you?
so for me, one of the things that I do business-wise is I talk to people about how to increase their confidence all the time. I would say it's probably the number one thing that people will say to me, how do I gain more confidence? So I work on this with people all the time, but I myself, like you, have to invest in myself to increase my confidence. So I do that a number of different ways. And so through the tips that I'm going to be sharing, these 10 tips throughout this session today, I'm going to be sharing some of those things that I do. So we talked about the fact that there are tremendous advantages to being more confident. It's going to open up opportunities for you that you might not otherwise have just because you're in a different frame of mind. That's not starting out with necessarily one of my tips. That's just something that I'm making a statement about, but
Mm-hmm.
it could be considered a bonus tip, if you will. But let's dive in and let's share right now what the top sort of 5 tips are that people can benefit from
Mm-hmm.
to gain more confidence. So one thing I would share with people is to write down 3 things they are proud of that they've accomplished. And they don't have to be monumental achievements, and they can be divided into professional as well as personal accomplishments. Earlier, we said that this is going to be focused more so on the work aspect of our lives, but again, it can definitely translate into your personal life, as
Mm-hmm.
this particular tip suggests. So the next tip is on a scale of 1 to 5. How would you rate your accomplishments? And so this isn't information that you need to share with anybody. So just be honest with yourself, because if you're not rating yourself very high, obviously you probably are lacking somewhat in the confidence area. But some people are overconfident. I was listening to a TED Talk today, and there was a speaker talking about how men tend to, if they're asked about their GPA, and it could have been from 20 years ago, they're going to tend to increase that number a little bit, whereas women tend to decrease it for whatever reason. This is just through the research that they've done. So maybe, not that you're going to be not providing the truth, but you perhaps should err someplace maybe a little bit higher, just like men do, I think, for women out there, because it's really like one of those small things that can potentially benefit you. So if you think that your GPA was, say, a 3.4, almost a 3.5, round it up. Say you had a 3.5. That's not going to harm anybody.
Well, right, because I had a 1.75, so I just rounded it up to a 3.5 and I doubled it. It's the same thing.
That math is incredible.
But
Wow.
I had fun.
Impressive. You did. I'm sure you had fun. I
Sorry to
guarantee
interrupt.
that.
Sorry to interrupt.
So the third one is to jot down 3 more things that you want to accomplish professionally or personally in the next year or sooner. So when you do that, and again, like I was saying earlier today, to have small sort of micro accomplishments is one thing, but to have some bigger ones to reach for is going to help you also with confidence as well, because it can give you something to strive towards, working towards. And then number 4 is to plot out in just a few sentences how you're going to be able to accomplish the things you want to do. And this doesn't have to be an exercise in crafting a novel, and only you need to see this. So I like to kind of keep a running tally of things that I'm working on. And sometimes when I tell people what I'm working on, they say to me, oh my gosh, that seems like a lot. But for me, that's what motivates me in terms of knowing that I've got plenty to work on that's going to be interesting, engaging for me. And so if I find that I'm just only working on maybe one thing, which is highly focused, I can certainly get it done, but I need a variety. So you need to kind of understand how you work.
Sure.
And so do you have some techniques that you would share in terms of what you do to increase your confidence as it relates to being a professional in the workforce?
Yeah. So I am going to go back to, I coached basketball for a number of years when I was younger. And what I took from that is these folks that were 18 to 21, 22 needed guidance and needed help, right? You have a bad game, you have 2 bad games, shooting was bad, you're just not playing well.
Right.
There's things that I was able to do as a coach to get them back in the right frame of mind. And I took those from the personal world, if you will, into the professional world when I started managing. We all have, I hate to use the term bad days. I really don't. We all have challenging days, not bad days, right?
Right.
I always say any day we're not pushing up daisies is a good day. And I mean that. And so, the technique is, people say, well, you have to knock them down to build them back up. You got to break them down to build them back up. I don't believe in that, because the confidence or lack of has already knocked these people, right? Is knock these folks down. And our job, I realized my job as a manager was to build and use techniques in order to get their confidence. So if I knew they were good at cold calling, if I knew they were good at presenting, I would say to them, and to start in front of the sales team, hey, Murf, if you would lead the team this week on doing this, knowing that they were going to, kill it and do a great job.
Right.
That's all of a sudden they start realizing, you know what? I'm pretty good, and I am accomplished at doing certain things. And by building off of that, their performance slowly got better and better and better.
Sure.
And those are the things that I've learned over the years that I always try. We're not all great at everything.
No,
right?
Absolutely not.
And so the confidence, sure, Murph, and so our confidence gets better with what we're good at. Yeah. And our confidence is not as strong when we're not. And you don't always get to work at all of those things you're not great at. So when if I can help put someone in that position, that's a good thing.
That's great. So I've got some more tips. So if people are keeping track here, this is tip number 6, and it correlates to the number of people that I'm going to suggest that you do this with. And so that is to ask half a dozen of your colleagues to email you 3 or more things that describe who you are. And what people will find when people tell them these words, and then they're going to start to see patterns in terms of how they are perceived. And people generally are going to be kind, and they're not going to say, well, you're always late. They're going to say genuinely positive things about you. So you can expect when you get this email back from your colleagues, these 6 colleagues, that it's probably going to be something that you're going to want to hold on to. And you're probably going to gain some insight from them in terms of how they view you, in terms of seeing you through a different lens than you do, which from their perspective is showing you probably being more confident than you may come across. So I love that particular tip, and I've used it with lots of different teams and people that I've worked with. And it's kind of like little magic sprinkle happy dust that people can just so easily do this, and it can help to increase your confidence. So that's tip number 6. So tip number 7 is to offer to reciprocate this. So if they don't ask back to do this for them, you can do this on your own without them asking, and then just kind of surprise them. And maybe that will be the catalyst to have them ask other people to do this thing for you, because they may not be aware that you're doing this with 5 other people as well. But share it with them, because I think it's something that everyone can benefit from, certainly. And then I would say share the information potentially with other people that are close to you, and see what kind of reaction you get from them, because they may have, and these would be outside of the 6 people that you talk to. This could be not necessarily information that you may want to share with your boss right away, but there's maybe some information in there that when at review time, or when you're having a conversation with your boss, there may be some real golden nuggets in there that you want to share with your boss, to make sure that your boss is aware of these things.
Right.
That can put you in a better light, and that frames you, right, so that you look and are highlighting things that maybe your boss isn't even aware of, because you may be working with some other people and having other experiences with them that really shine a light on what you're good at. So I like to suggest that to people as well. So number 8 is commit to doing at least one random act of kindness every day. And these small gestures will indirectly help to build your confidence, as you feel more satisfied by doing something nice for others. And the feeling will be cumulative and help to strengthen the confidence foundation you're building. So one day in an office that I was working at, I happened to have some wildflowers in my yard. So early before work, I went out, I picked them, and I picked enough so that I could go around to at least 20 people that were associated with a team that I was working with. And I got some Dixie cups, a little bit bigger than Dixie cups, water, and I left a flower in everybody's desk without saying who it was from. And so it when people started to show up at work, it was just the coolest experience, just to see how delighted people were by the fact that they just got this random wildflower on their desk for the day. It made their day, and they positioned them in such a way.
Of course, right? It was
like,
random, so you don't know where it's coming from, and it makes you start thinking,
right,
just
exactly.
cool things, right? It makes everybody smile. You
That's
see
right.
it, they smile.
That's right. And it could have been equivalent to the same reaction that they would have gotten if somebody sent them $100 bouquet. It had the same impact. It was really kind of cool.
Right.
So I really like that one as well. So number 9 is make sure every day you have an opportunity to work on doing things that make you feel confident. Each time you do this, just like physical workouts, is equivalent to building the core strength of your confidence muscle, which you absolutely want to fully own. So we talked about owning this earlier. And then number 10 is, we've all heard the expression, fake it until you make it. And there is something interesting about this expression. Part of it has to do with acting confident, even when you may not feel that way, whether it's giving a presentation, going after your dream job, planning an event, doing research. If you have not already tried applying this concept, please do so. And before you know it, you're going to not be faking it anymore. So how about any of those tips sound interesting, or that you want to jump off from, or add?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, in my professional career, I learned the hard way about faking it until you make it, right? Not being prepared is the first no, right? Not being prepared and saying, that's okay, everybody kind of likes me, I can go in this meeting and fake it till you make it. Right. Until you realize that you have nothing to say of any value to anybody, and then you don't look so good anymore. And all of a sudden you walk out of that meeting and your confidence goes from here to here,
right? And
you're rebuilding again. Exactly. That's number 1. The second part of this is a little tip that I learned, and I always think about it when I'm presenting, or when we're doing this Zoom call, or when we're in the studio doing our podcast. Someone always said to me, or has said to me many, many, many times, nobody cares as much as you care.
That's true. No
one is looking at you. They want to hear from you. So they're not looking, saying, that's an ugly shirt, or that's an ugly. And if they are, then they're the shallow people we talked about 3 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. But if they're listening with those 2 ears, they're saying, that's really good insight. That's really good knowledge. They must have done some research. He obviously is well prepared. And that gives, they then kind of instill confidence in you with some of those tips.
Right. So this happens to be one of those topics that we could easily do another show on, because there's plenty more content that we could cover. But for the sake of keeping to a timeline and within the parameters of our show, we have covered 10 tips and more. So I'm hoping that today people are going to have some terrific takeaways from these tips that Eliot and I have shared. And I want to thank you, Eliot, for another wonderful show. And I look forward to having many more shows to look forward to working on with you in the future. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, today for coming to this show. And Eliot, I will see you next time.
Yeah, look forward to it, Murf. And thank you for preparing me today.
You're welcome. You're
yeah, great job. Thank you.